Hey, it's Lowery Smith of the Commander Smiths here with searching for the spotlight. Neriv. Jesus.
One,
Heart of
two,
the Storm.
three, two.
One and a red and a white and a black for a 4/5 flying spirit dragon. If a creature you control has entered this turn, uh, would deal damage. It deals twice that much damage instead. We have damage doublers out there, triplers out there. None of them quite with this um, parameter of having to come into play this turn. Uh, and so right now, the deck has a lot of dragons in it. I got about 30 cards to cut in this. And if you haven't been to searching for the spotlight, that's what this is. I'm sitting at about 90, 100 cards right now. I'm not going to talk about any lands. I'll do that on its own. You can go check out the deck list that I'm working with right now on Moxfield under the Commander Smiths and Neriv. Anyway, so you do your deal. Commander Smiths is a podcast that comes out audio every week. We record live on Monday nights generally, plus or minus a day, but mostly a Monday. And then, we do shorts, we do deck techs, we do deck building, we do secret layer talk. We just did one tonight, and you got the Final Fantasy one. You can check that video out. And we just try and talk about our love and our passion about magic. Yeah. Please don't go. Give us thumbs up, follow if you're enjoying it. If you're not watching live, watching like 1.5 times speed, maybe 2 or whatever. I don't talk that fast, and you'll catch everything anyway. So what I do first is I go through the deck, the cards, I kind of cut as we go, and then I kind of have it in piles, and then I move it into other piles, and then a couple other piles. Generally takes about an hour 20, hour and a half. Either way, leave a comment if you have any questions, and then I can chit chat with you. So Neriv is pretty cool. Hoping to have something happen. This first part is going to likely be um, kind of what do we call this? This is a combo of draw and ramp, and then we'll get into some draw cards. So right now we have Decadent Dragon, which is a 4 mana 4/4 flying trample. And whenever it attacks, you create a treasure token. There is a bit of a treasure sub theme here. A lot of dragons are kind of doing that anyway. And then also you can pay 3, and you get to look at 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck, and then potentially cast them. So I look at that as card advantage, and it's a dragon and some treasure making, and I like the card in here quite a bit. Bone Horde Dracosaur. It's a dinosaur and a dragon, but it's a 5/5 flying for a strike. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn, so there's the card advantage. And if you exile the land card this way, create a 3/1 red dino. And if you exiled a non-land card this way, create a treasure, which is where the mana comes into play. Is likely going to make the deck as well. We have Herald's Horn, which is 3 mana artifacts. When it comes into play, you name dragon, and then dragon spells cost 1 less. And at your upkeep, you can reveal the top card, and if it's a dragon, put in your hand. Then you get to draw a card after that type. Move on with what's going on. It's a great card. It's lowering the cost of dragons. Roughly 20 plus dragons in here right now. We'll see how many make it. But this should do some work. Should say that the Commander Smiths also has a Patreon. You can, and if you jump on there, we give away proxies like this and plenty of others. Adam has made over 400 over the last 7+ years at this point. And so there's a lot of options if you want to catch up. Most of them are good cards, not all of them, but most of them are really good art too. So it's enjoyable in that way. So yeah, and then we have a Discord if you want to just join for $1. That helps us out a ton. Dragon's Horde, 3 mana artifact that taps for any color of mana, and whenever you cast a dragon spell, you can put a counter on it, tap to remove a counter, and draw a card. And so that is mana and draw. You have Sarkon Fireblood, Planeswalker of the +1 is discard a card to draw a card. The other +1 is add 2 mana for dragon spells. And the -7 creates 4/5/5 red dragon creature tokens with flying. And so I kinda like this because there is a slight reanimator theme in there along with, you drop this on turn probably 2 or 3, and then the next turn, you're gonna be able to cast, Neriv, anything that's at least 5 mana, and there's a lot of those dragons, so it works. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, I think I'm not gonna read everything, but it makes a treasure, discard and draw, exile it to be able to copy creature spells, which will come into play that have haste. Generally, they have haste, which will double what is created. So it's a great card. Breaching Dragonstorm, getting into the card advantage. Let's see here. The double ups. I don't dislike any of these. If I have to cut something, it might be Herald's Horn because it's not going to hit a whole ton. It's not just pure draw. Um, or I don't wanna get rid of either of these, but maybe Sarkon as well. Like, this just has a ton of value in there, but, I'd probably still cut the Herald's Horn over that. Not gonna make any cuts right now. Well, in that pile at this point. Alright, you have Breaching Dragonstorm, 5-mana enchantment. Whenever this enchantment enters, exile cards from the top of your deck until you exile a non-land card. So just one, and as long as its CMC is 8 or less, you get to cast it for free. Whenever you cast a dragon spell, return this back to your hand. And so, let's see here. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. If the spell's mana value is 8 or less, if you don't, put that card into your hand. That's actually pretty sweet. So if you kind of, I guess, cascade into a dragon and cast it, this will come right back to your hand. And then maybe do it the next turn. Kind of sounds like an interesting, if not slow, way of doing this, but it's kind of cool. You have Dragonhawk, Fate's Tempest. Whenever it enters or attacks, exile the top X cards of your deck, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. So it just kind of depends on how many creatures or how many dragons you have in play, really. And then you may cast those cards until the end of your next turn. And at the beginning of your next end step, Dragonhawk deals 2 damage to each opponent for each of those cards that are still exiled. So you either get to cast them, that's the card advantage spot, or it's dealing 2 damage per exiled card with this. Um, it's doing work. The damage isn't going to double, but it's going to work. Parapet Thrasher, 4 mana, 4/3 flying. Whenever one or more dragons deal combat damage to an opponent, choose one of these that hasn't been chosen. So if you hit 3 opponents, you get all of these, but destroy target artifact an opponent controls, or this creature deals 4 damage to each other opponent, or exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So it's a little bit of card advantage, a little bit of destruction, and a little bit of damage. So, and it comes out, it comes down. You can hit everybody with a dragon, and then that happens right there. Thundermaw Dragon. You can cast essentially dragons off the top of your library with this card. 4 mana, 4/4 flyer. Shadowheart Dark Justicar is essentially a sack outlet to draw cards. That's what we're doing here. Sometimes there's going to be some cards in there that allow you to cheat them in play, or making tokens that you got to sacrifice anyway. And so this is something that kind of works really well. Knight's Whisper is just an easy one. Pay 2, draw 2, lose 2. It works. Thrill of Possibility, 2 mana, discard a card, draw 2 cards, instant speed. Demand Answers, which is the same card with a couple of different stipulations. There should be something else in here. I'm just cheating, showing everybody. Corroding Dragonstorm, 2 mana enchantment. When it ETBs, lose 2 life, surveil 2 life, and oh no, sorry. Each opponent loses 2 life. I gain 2 life and surveil 2 whenever you cast a dragon, put it back into your hand. And it's very pretty. I like these cards a lot. The border on cons was pretty crazy. I like it a lot in the foil. But that seems like a solid card to be able to just see this, and the surveil kind of works with your reanimation. Top, it's amazing. Esper Sentinel, just cheap draw that'll get you through to mid game. Species Specialist. Now, um, If you have a lot of dragons that are gonna be dying or sacrificed at the end of turn, I think this one's pretty good. What it is when it ETBs, you name dragon in this deck, and whenever a creature of the chosen type dies, you may draw a card. The problem with this at this point is I have cut it down to whereas most of the tokens that I'm making of it are exiled, thusly not triggering this to draw any cards. So we're gonna cut this right now. Faithless Looting for the draw two, discard two, cheap. Orator of Ojutai. When it ETBs, show off a dragon or control a dragon to draw a card. Defender Flying 04. Thundering, Thunder of Unity. This one seems like I want to play it. Let's just talk about it. Red and a white and a black for an enchantment. Saga. You draw two cards and lose two life. Perfectly decent. It's a little bit of a stretch with that like mana cost. And then whenever a creature you control enters this turn, each opponent loses one life and you gain one life. That's some nice reach in your deck. So I think it's doing enough, but I'm not doing this. And that's my problem. That's what's kind of the sticking point. And like I said, I got to cut about 30 cards. So let's cut this at this point. Mardo Devotee, 1-2 ETB Scry 2. That's what this is here for. It's a nice fixer, but it's here to Scry 2 real cheap. Trouble in Pairs just to draw cards whenever they're, I mean, do anything twice essentially. Deadly Dispute. This is probably, but 2 mana, sacrifice an artifact or a creature, draw 2 cards, create a treasure token. It's a great card to just kind of sacrifice one of those tokens that are going away anyway. And then Sazcap's Brew, 2 mana, discard a card. Or no, it's not discard a card, but it is. It is. Calm down. All right. You can gift a tap fish, which doesn't really matter in this deck specifically, but as an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card. Target player draws 2 cards, which would be you. If the gift was promised, target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And so you can just give a hasty creature +2/+0 boost with this as well, and essentially double that up with Neriv. Ripples of Undeath, 2 mana enchantment at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards. Then you may pay 1 and 3 life. If you do, put a card from your among those cards into your hand. Um, a lot of discard that's going on now that I'm kind of going through it and thinking about it. I don't have that much reanimation, so I'm probably going to have to look at something to cut within that discard package. Sneak Attack, choose a creature from your hand and put it into play with haste and sacrifice it for a red mana. This will get real aggressive. Cavern Horde Dragon reduces the cost by whatever artifacts your opponents have. And then also when it deals damage, you get to make that many treasures for as many artifacts as they have. As Flying Trample Haste, the damage can be doubled when it first comes into play. It's pretty nice. Goldspan Dragon, 4/4 Flying Haste, which haste is really nice. Whenever it attacks or is targeted, create a treasure, and treasure spells cost or give you treasures give you 2 mana. Now with that in play, then you got Gold Lust Triad. Has Myriad Flying 4/3, and whenever that creature deals damage, you create a treasure token. You know what? I was getting into the manas. I'll quick go over those again. So this is our drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18. I don't dislike it, that number. Especially with this many, I'm probably going to want to drop down to like 15. Um, I do like the Sazcast Brew. I don't know how much I'm going to like Deadly Dispute, but it does make a treasure token, which is nice. Trouble in Pairs just might not be needed. It's also kind of fighting at that dragon spot. I want a lot of my draw to be under the dragons so that I can get to them and make sure that I'm ramping appropriately. And so if I can just treat them like a double cantrip essentially, and then I think that's kind of where I want to be. So Trouble in Pairs, although a great card, we can cut that. We like these cheapies so that we can just kind of keep on moving forward. Demand Answers, Throw Possibility, Night's Whisper, Shadowheart, Dark, Justicar. Um, I think maybe if I want more of these types of effects, maybe I just go with more instants and sorceries. Um, because again, that 4 mana is fighting with the dragons, and I wanna be dropping the dragons at that point. So let's cut that as well. Thundermane Dragon, Parapet Thrasher, Dragonhawk, Breaching Dragonstorm. I wanna try and keep this in here just because it's seems like it's gonna be fun. So, but we just cut 4 cards from the draw package at that point. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And we'll stick with that at this point. All right, let's go with our mana, which is gonna be like treasure focused, but we have a lot of mana ramp, and I think this is a main part that we need to get into. But we already talked about Triad, Goldspan Dragon, Cavern Horde Dragon, Sneak Attack. All right. Swashbuckler Extraordinaire. When an ETB is created treasure, it is a dragon. It's a cheap one at 3 for a 2/2. And then whenever you attack, you may sacrifice a treasure. And when you do, up to one that many target creatures gain double strike until end of turn. So it's a nice way to like double double with the double strike. It's a thing to do with your treasures. It's a dragon. If you're copying it or myriading it or blanking it, you're going to get more treasures. And we'll see where we're kind of at with that. But it's a cheap dragon that makes treasures. Ganax, Astral Hunter, 5 mana, 3/4 flyer dragon. When it or another dragon ETB, create a treasure token. And this is probably, I mean, I'm going Myriad and Blink, if you didn't know that. So there's that. Reckless Barbarian, a dragon, 2/2 for 2 mana, taps or sacrifice it to add 2 red mana. Being a dragon's the only reason it's here. Ember Mouth Sentinel, 2 mana, 2/1. When it ETBs, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, shuffle, put it in your hand. If you control a dragon, put it into play. Tapped. Archaeomancer's Map, 3 mana, artifact. When it ETBs, go get 2 planes, put them into your hand, and then if you're behind on lands, you can put lands into play when other people put lands into play. It's a cool card. I like the idea of I have 3 mana, go get 2 more. I will hit my 5, and I want to hit my 5 on time. I do not want to stumble, or else this deck's going to lose pretty quick. Dragon Lord's Servant. Dragon spells cost 1 less to cast. I kind of let's go with a little bit of the debate, which is these 2 cards. Heartless Summoning is dope. Creatures you cast cost 2 less to cast, and so your dragons are a lot cheaper. It feels like a you know, Dragon Speaker Shaman at 2 mana, but your creatures get -1/-1. There's not a lot of 1/1s in here. It's pretty nice. So we got that. Nightscape Familiar. Red spells cost 1 less. Dragon spells cost 1 less. They're both 2 mana. One's a 1/3, one's a 1/1. This has regenerate though. I mean, for me, I think this is just a better card, even though this is more on theme. Like I have more red spells. I think if I had a ruby medallion, I would just be happier, but I have my 2 that I have are already in 2 other decks, and so we'll leave them there, especially if I have options like what I have. So I'm gonna cut Dragonlord's Servant, and I don't know if I'll ever play this card. Womp womp. We got Dragon Speaker Shaman here as well. 3 mana, 2/2 dragon spells you play cost 2 less to cast. And it's a badass card. 2 less is crazy, right? Arcane Signet for that mana ramp. Chrome Mox. I just for a bit more speed, I put that in there. I think I like it better than like a Mana Vault or a Grim Monolith. I want probably just colored mana to be able to cast stuff better instead of faster. I don't know if that totally makes sense. I could do all 3, but I kind of aim for bracket 3, and that's what I'm going to be looking for. And so I think this can fit in there. Mox Jasper taps for a mana of any color, only if you control a dragon. Plenty of dragons in here. Hopefully, I can keep them out. Soul Ring for that ramp. Curse Mirror. Artifact that taps for a red, but when it ETBs, you copy one of your dragons, it attacks, double that damage, whatever effect happening. It's a great little card in here, I think. Descent into Avernus. makes treasures, speeds up the game by dealing them damage. They get treasures. But I mean, honestly, this is a really fun card in Commander. Highly recommend playing it. Smothering Tithe, just a you need ramp, right? Right? People, I don't know. People are mad. They're just mad. Alchemist talent, 4 mana. When he ETBs, you get 2 treasures. And then if you up it to level 2, your treasures create 2 mana. And then at 5, whenever you cast a spell, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it, this class deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to each opponent. So just a little bit more reach, I guess. Sarkon Dragon Ascendant. When it enters, you may behold a dragon, which is show it off, or if you control one. And if you do, create a treasure token. Whenever you cast a dragon, put a 1/1 counter on it, becomes a dragon flying that turn. Curse of Opulence, just a way to get gold or treasure, and really cheap way of doing it. And then Gilded Artisan, commander creatures you own have whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, that you create 2 treasure tokens. So as long as you don't have the most life, which sometimes you might. Oh shit, am I cutting this? Neriv probably isn't the most aggressive. It's just whatever has most recently come into play is going to be the most aggressive. Um, I don't know if I want to be sending this at the person with the most life. Curse is a little bit different because you get some bonuses when your opponents are doing it. Um, shit. We're gonna keep Guild Artisan, Curse of Opulence. Sarkin's probably pretty slow. Like, I don't want to be blinking it with the 1/1 counters on it, but it's probably okay. Blinking or having a lot of myriad dragons are going to put a lot of 1/1 counters on it and make it aggressive. Alchemist Talent is not a dragon, famously. And I still like the doubling treasures. Smothering Tithe, Descent of Avernus, Cursed Mirror seems like a stud. Soul Ring, Mox Jasper. I don't even know if I like that one, honestly. But I mean, where else is it gonna go? Chrome Mox, Arcane Signet. Still like Heartless Summoning. I feel like this is one of the few decks where I really like this card. I generally have a good curve of creatures. Like the only one that I can think of that this is really gonna kill is like that I care about would be like Esper Sentinel, you know. So there's that. Dragon Speaker Shaman, I'm gonna try and all right. My problem is that it's at 3 mana and it's gonna be good, right? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just too narrow, probably. I still like Nightscape Familiar, like ba, ba, ba. Reckless Barbarian. I mean, it doesn't have a blink. I mean, if I myriad it, I'd have to do that during the combat step because I believe they are sacrificed or exiled at the end of combat, and so that's not going to do a whole ton for me. Um, we can cut Reckless Barbarian, I guess. Ugh. Ganex seems cool. Swashbuckler just seems like much smaller, not nearly as good. Bippity boppity boop. All right. And so right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 22. We'll keep that going, but really I want that under 20 or less. I mean, the ramp's going to be really important. The thing that's going to frustrate me is I don't want to cut anything that specifically says dragon on it, but they are just worse than other cards. Mox Jasper probably doesn't deserve a spot in most decks, in most dragon decks. I'm not even sure if Dragon Speaker Shaman deserves to be there. Like, I think Heartless Summoning is just probably a better card because it's not so specific, even though most of my cards are just dragons in here. It's just going to hit more cards. Geez Louise. Yeah. Okay. I think I've talked myself into cutting Dragon Speaker Shaman. All right, that's 21 at this point. I like the dragons that are giving me stuff. Treasures, sneak attack. Yeah. Doubling the double double. No, I mean, the other thing about this is this can survive some of the damage that can happen during a game. So that's kind of nice. Also, the versus the dragon specific reducers. It has to be in there. Son of a gun. Um, the other thing that worries me is that okay, this is kind of specific. I have to, and this is gold. That's not a treasure. That is gold. Um, and this has to be your commander attacking somebody with the most life, and that might be you in some cases, rarely, but these might be worth cutting. And I think we got below 20. We might be at 19 now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 19. All right, let's move on. This next one, we're going to be doing protection. All right, Scale Lord Reckoner. 5 mana, 4/4 flyer dragon. Whenever a dragon you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, destroy target non land permanent that player controls. And it just has to be the target of a spell or ability. It doesn't have to actually be destroying it, which might actually be better. Because if they're wrathing, then nice. Their stuff. But Thunderbreak Regent, 4/4 flying. Whenever a dragon you control becomes a target of a spell, this deals 3 damage to that player. And that's awesome art. Come on. Lightning Greaves for that haste and protection. Same thing with Swiftfoot Boots. Dragon's Disciple, 1/3. When it comes into play, you can show a dragon, or if you control a dragon, get a 1/1 counter on it. And dragons you control have Ward 1. 2 mana, pretty cheap for that kind of thing. And then let's talk about True Conviction and Whip of Erebos in this regard. But creatures you control have double strike and life link, and then creatures you control have life link, and then you can bring stuff back from the graveyard that gain haste and you exile them. But the life link's going to be pretty big because you definitely have some creatures that come into play and deal damage, and then you're going to gain a ton of life. And then also just the double strike is kind of a secondary, like, hey, my creatures that come into play, like, they don't have to just come into play. They still do double damage now. Um, they should be nice in that regard. So, and that's part of the regeneration package, along with Blade Wing the Risen. That's 7 mana, 4/4 flying. When it ETBs, bring a dragon from your yard to play, and then dragon creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. I don't think I really care about that part, but just the ability to potentially blanket a myriad, get some stuff back from your graveyard. I put that in the protection package, but this is pretty cheap and simple. Dragon, Swift, boots, Dragon's Disciples on par. Lifelink is going to be really nice, and then just another dragon that purely deals in the graveyard. So, um, I like all those. I don't have to cut them, and that's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I like to keep that under 10. That's where we're at, and I'll be happy for now. Okay, removal. We're gonna go Thunder Dragon. When it ETBs, deals 3 damage to each creature without flying. With Neriv into play, it's gonna be 6 damage to each creature without flying. It's gonna be nice. That's 7 mana. Thundermaw Hellkite, 5 mana, 5/5 flying, haste, so that'll double. But when it enters, it deals 1 damage to each creature with flying. Your opponent's control, tap those creatures, and it's actually 2 when it's dealing the damage when it ETBs. And then haste, it's going to get through. It's going to deal 10. It's going to be sweet. Demanding Dragon, 5 mana, 5/5 flying. When it ETBs, it deals 5 damage to target opponent unless that player sacrifices a creature. If you target somebody that doesn't have any creatures, they're going to be taking 10 damage. I hope that's going to be fun. Or else they're likely just going to sacrifice the creature in this regard because they're not going to take 10. 5 might be a question, but they're not going to take 10. So there's that. Glory Bringer, 4/4 flying haste. Whenever it attacks, you can exert it, which deals 4 damage to target non-dragon creature and opponent controls. So really, that's 8 damage to a creature and 8 damage when you get it through. Protector of the Waste, 6 mana, 5/5 flying dragon, just came out, but when it ETBs or becomes monstrous, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments controlled by different players. Um, but more, it's a bit of a blank deck. It'll do some work for us. Scavenger Regent, 4 mana, 4/4 flying ward, discard a card. That's not the cool part. The X spell part, that's the omen. Each non-dragon creature gets -X until end of turn. You got some support stuff. I don't feel as bad cutting the servant and the shaman for this. Like, I'm just gonna have my stuff survive now when there's those things that affect non-dragons. So that they're both of them work quite well. Crux of Fate, destroy all dragon creatures or destroy all non-dragon creatures. You're probably going to pull ahead on this one. Ruinous Ultimatum, destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. You're in these colors. I think you're probably going to run this. Fury is a non-dragon removal, but you're basically evoking it, exiling a red card from your hand. When it ETBs, it deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers, which is really turned into kind of 8, but it's 4 divided, then that damage doubled. So that'll be kind of nice. Instant speed. Maybe it's not, and you can't do that instant speed. Doesn't have flash. Okay. Whatever. Realm Scorcher, Hellkite, 6 mana, 4/6. You can bargain, which is sacrifice a enchantment or token as you cast a spell. Flying Haste, so it comes into play, has the haste part, and then you also, if you cast it, no, when if it enters, if it was bargain, add 4 mana of any combination of colors. You can pay 2 to deal 1 damage to any target, and so it at least comes down Flying Haste, trying to deal 8 there, using that 4 mana to deal 1, 2, which is doubled into 4 to any target. And if you have mana left over, you're doing more. So maybe that. You may sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token as you cast the spell. So if this is blinking, you can't bargain, which is fine. Themberchud, 7 mana, 5/5 flying. When it ETBs, it deals X damage to each creature, to each player, and shit. He deals X damage to each other creature without flying, and each other player, where X is the number of mountains you control. So, and each player. So it's doing a lot of damage when it comes into play. Neriv is going to double that. You might not have a ton of mountains, but you're going to have enough. If it does 3, it's going to get doubled into 6 damage for all that. So not a bad deal. Bogard and Hellkite, 8 mana, 5/5 flash flying. When it ETBs, it deals 5 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets, which is doubled to damage. Tyrant of Courageous. When it ETBs, 4 damage to any target, and then it also has a fire breathing on it. It's going to be 8 damages to probably somebody's face or killing something huge. And then there's going to be whatever's next. But let's go through just kind of like damage and removal and stuff like that. I like a lot of the damage based ETB effects. I have no problem with almost any of this removal at this point. The only one that's like an obvious choice is this Demanding Dragon. They're not taking the 5, which is really 10. They'll just sacrifice that creature. That's kind of my thought at this point. But I like a lot of this ETB. Plenty of dragons, plenty of haste, plenty of non-combat damage that can be doubled. That's where we're at. Pretty happy with that. All right, and then some of this stuff is just going to be direct damage. Red Dragon, 6 mana, 4/4 flying. When it ETBs, it deals 4 damage to each opponent, which is really 8 damage to each opponent, and that's a huge swing. Scourge of Valkus. Whenever it or another dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of dragons you control. Also has fire breathing, but it's direct damage when stuff ETBs. it's can be doubled potentially, so should be nice. Terror of the Peaks, 5 mana, 5/4 flying. Spells your opponents cast that target this, they got to pay an additional 3 life to cast. Whenever another creature ETBs under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals equal to that creature's uh, to any power to any target. This will not technically double. This won't double because Terror of the Peaks is dealing that damage to whereas Scourge of Valakut, I believe the dragon that ETBs is doing the damage. It might be Scourge, but I don't know. The wording and reading is tough.
Kid can't even read. Two.
And so Terror of the Peaks will not work with doubling the damage, but it's still going to be a damn good card. And then Dragon Tempest also dealing damage when dragons coming into play, and it gives them haste. So you got that chance for Neriv. Warstorm Surge, 6 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. And so that dragon is going to be dealing damage, which is doubled with Neriv. Roaming Throne, a lot of your dragons and stuff have triggers. You just name dragon, and it's going to double trigger with Roaming Throne. Nahiri's. Well, all right. That's the damage package right there. Let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have no problem with any of these cards. The only one that I would potentially cut is Warstorm Surge, but I do like that it is whatever creature's coming into play is dealing the damage and will be doubled. So I like that. All right. Some of the weird stuff, I guess, at this point. Roaming Throne, doubling those triggers. Already said that. Nahiri's Resolve. Creatures get +1/+0. They have haste. And at the beginning of your end step, exile any number of non-token artifacts and or creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of your next end step. So it's kind of like a protection blink, and that stuff goes away, and then it'll come back. Everything's going to trigger. They just came into play. They have haste because Nahiri's Resolve. To me, it seems like a really cool card to run around with. Ghost Way, 3 mana, instant, exile all the creatures you control, return them to the battlefield under your owner at the beginning of the next end step. So it's a way to get some blanks time in, but also like re-triggering damage, protection from wraths where a lot of stuff might die. And it just works with stuff. It's not going to be perfect because of the haste part doesn't matter. And that is always nice when things can come into play. So yeah, there's that. But a lot of the damage stuff is going to trigger. So Eerie Interlude, same deal. Only you can target which creatures are doing it, but it is the end of the next end step as well. Just a nice way to keep things. Semester's End, same thing, just 4 mana. Lae'zel's Acrobatics, 4 mana instant, similar, but there's some options depending on how you're rolling it. It could just be a blank where it comes back into play right away. And if it isn't, it'll pop back once and twice, and then it'll come back end of turn. Sorry there. All right, Cloud Shift is a nice blink. Ephemerate is a blink with a rebound. And though that's kind of where I'm at right now, I think I like I think I'm gonna have to pare down, but I do really like the targeted blink. So I'm gonna keep those. And then Roaming Throne, I'm cool with the double blinking. We'll do that. Nahiri's Resolve is gonna be consistent. We can always just kind of blink, exile any number of non-token artifacts and or creatures you control. So if they're tapped, you might as well blink them and you're protecting them. So I like Nahiri's Resolve at this point. I like 3 mana over 4 mana, but I do like the potential that it might just stay into play. I like Eerie Interlude. It's one of my favorite cards. So that's where I'm at. So we got the 4, and then we're going to have some other stuff going on. So I think those 4 kind of also protection for blinking. And at this point, I think we're going to cut Ghostway and Semester's End just for being, it has to be everything. And Semester's End is also everything. It is any number of target, but it's 4 mana. All right. Let's see here. Then you have some of the token makers kind of playing around with that. Redoubled Storm Singer, 3/3 first strike. Whenever a creature attacks, for each token you control that entered this turn, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that token. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice those tokens. And so Myriad does count with this. Like you can just stack it properly and Myriad will trigger. Then this will check and say, hey, I see the Myriad. Let's make some more Myriad, essentially. Um, so that's pretty cool. And then you have Determined Iteration, 2 mana enchantment. It is a populate that you got to sacrifice. Problem is it doesn't work with Myriad because it's checking at the beginning of combat, not on an attack trigger. So that ends up being my problem. But some of my stuff it's created on ETB or it's created on um whenever you cast a thing. So we'll see where that goes. Renewed Solidarity, 3 mana. When an ETB's named Dragon in this deck, creatures you control of that type get +1/+0. At the beginning of your end step, for each token that you control of the chosen type that entered this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. You control of the chosen type that entered this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. So here's a little thing that I learned about this versus Anointed Procession. So what this is a delayed trigger. So if you have one of these tokens at your end step that is not exiled or sacrificed or died at before this, because it is each token you control of the chosen type. So it's still checking to see if you control those at your end step. It'll make a copy of it. And even if that is sacrificed, it states it's going to be sacrificed. Um, the sacrifice or the exile depends on what created that specific token versus making a copy. So if you have an anointed procession, if you make make two of those tokens, it's a replacement effect because it states instead make a second token. And so it was still being created by whatever was stating exile or sacrifice, to whereas renewed solidarity is creating the token and separates it and is just making a token that you don't have to sacrifice. So that was something that was pretty cool. If I didn't explain it clearly enough, I would say go talk with a judge. I am not a judge. I talked with a judge, so this is secondhand, but that was my understanding. I find that pretty cool, and I'm going to go with it. Mardu, Siege Breaker, 4 mana, 4/4 flying. Death Touch, haste, does not have flying. But when an ETBs exile one of your creatures, and whenever this attacks, you get to make 2 or 3 or however many opponents as you have, copies, 3 copies, essentially, into play attacking. You got a bunch of ETBs. This is going to be a pretty cool card in here. Blade of Cells, just giving a creature Myriad, like I was saying, makes a copy of itself attacking the other opponents that you're not specifically attacking with this creature. And Myriad's going to do a lot of work. Legion Loyalty is just giving all your creatures Myriad. And this is an exile, those tokens at the end of combat. That's what I was kind of talking about with like Species Specialist. If you don't have enough sacrifice outlets, it's just going to be a bad card. And that seems like too many hoops for me to really feel like it's going to work. So there's that. Kindred Charge, 6 mana sorcery, named Dragon. For each creature you control of the chosen type, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste, exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So, like Renewed Solidarity, when you're exiling at the end of the end step, we'll see those tokens being created and making copies that don't have to be exiled. That's what I'm saying. To whereas like Myriad is gone at that end step. It's going away at the end of the combat step. So Renewed Solidarity will not see those tokens that were made. Thusly, they don't really work together. But Kindred Charge does. Flame Shadow Conjuring, 4 mana enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, pay a red. If you do, create a token that is exiled at the beginning of the next end step. works with renewed solidarity. Molten Echoes, 4 mana enchantment. ETBs choose dragon. And then whenever a non-token creature of the chosen type enters, it's basically a free Flame Shadow Conjuring. I'm going to go with that. Mirror March, 6 mana enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature ETBs under your control, flip a coin until you lose a flip. For each flip you win, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So I think a lot of these cards work really nicely with the blink stuff that can happen. You get a huge thing going on. There's that. Then Saw in Half. Destroy target creature. If the creature dies this way, its controller creates 2 token copies that are half the size and power and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a way to kind of saw in half one of your creatures, right? I like a lot of these. I don't really know. I have cut a lot of the myriad from the deck as well. I'm liking the tokens. I like the blink. I think all of it together is going to make a really strong, aggressive deck. Saw in Half, I think, is more of like a fun card. I don't know how much I love it though. I think it was a really good suggestion from RoboCop. I just don't think I don't think it moved that way, if that makes sense. Like, I'd probably be happier in a Myriad deck, I guess. So I don't know, but I think I'm gonna get rid of it. Mirror March still seems very good. Same thing with Molten Echoes and Flame Shadow Conjuring. I like Kindred Charge. These are 2 of the myriads I have left in here. They're still pretty good. I'd be happy with a lot of that. Mardu Siegebreaker, Renewed Solidarity. Like, I just like the doubling. Um and redoubled Storm Singer. I'm cool with that. That one, it's gonna see all the tokens that I'm making. So I like that. Whereas Determined Iteration is gonna miss. Renewed Solidarity doesn't work with it. Mardu Siegebreaker doesn't. Redoubled Storm, Legion Loyalist. So like 1, 2, 3, 4 cards kind of work with it in the deck. I think we can cut Determined Iteration. All right. So at this point, we have made how many cuts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13. We've made 13 cuts. We're a third of the way there. We're not doing half bad, huh? So what I normally do here is go in CMC order, just see where everything is kind of landing, making sure I don't get too fat too high. And I know that I'm going to be a lot of 4s and 5s in this deck. So that's where we're going to be. But you want to cut the fat as best you can. 4, 5. We got everything on camera. There we go. 2, 5, 6, 8. That's a free one. I like the Mox and Fury in here because dragons will or potentially will get stuck in your hand. You're gonna have some slow starts, and so I think it's gonna be good to be able to just kind of toss stuff from your hand sometimes. All right, 2 2s, 4s. Ba, ba, ba. 2, 5. I think we're too fat. We're gonna have to cut Breaching Dragonstorm. I like it, but I just so many dragons are actually there. It's probably still a really nice card if you are, just like a dragon commander. That's probably fine as well. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. 3 3. There we go. I am getting hot. All right. Let's see this top end, which is it's a lot on the top end for what I normally have. So there's that. How about that? I was thinking about having some rituals in here, like a seeding song or a dark ritual. I kind of went away from that just because it gets blocky in your hand a little bit. So this is a top end that could be reduced. Um, I just feel like Legion loyalty coming down probably just wins you the game. Ruinous Ultimatum is a huge swing. Bogard and Hellkite's probably the worst out of this, but it's still ETBs, deal 10 damage for 8 mana. You have some of those cost reducers. Um, but boy, yeah, I mean, I like them all. I like them all. If this has lifelink, it's probably just I'm gonna gain a ton of life there in that regard. I probably have to cut something up here. And if I do, that means I'm cutting Bogar and Hellkite, which I hate. It was my one of my favorite cards for a really long time since Time Spiral. I remember having that come out and just fucking eyeing that up in the cases for a long time until I pulled the trigger. 99-cent card, but then it was 5-10 bucks. Um, but we'll cut it. We'll cut it. There's that. All right, let's look at that six piece. I still like that we have a lot of the dragons that are going to be here. All right, we're going to keep these dragons and true conviction. So the question ends up being like tokens, damage when the ETB. I mean, this works with the myriad, it works with the blink. This works with the blink, not the myriad. And this works with the blink, not it's like another blink and doesn't really work the myriad. I have two cards with myriad. That's not a terrible idea. So I think Warstorm Surge is probably better. I just I think I want these cards. Um this is gonna be really good with at the beginning of the next end step, exiling them. Same thing there. This is just in play though. Ugh. Ugh. Sounds like I gotta take a shit, but all right. Bonehorde Dragosaur. We like that. We like the dragons. We want to keep them in as best we can. Scale Lord Reckoner, Thundermaw Hellkite. I probably don't have enough of anything, but yeah, giving this myriad feels really good in my mind. Glory Bringer. You're not going to be able to exert if you myriad it, but blinking it resets the exert, so that's pretty cool. Crux of Fate. Scourge of Valkus. Terror of the Peaks is going to be bonkers. And here is Resolve. Hey, yeah, I like all of them at this point. Shit. All right. All right, let's go that 4 spot. Decadent, Perpet Thrasher. Yeah, just seeing some of the card draw, just cheaper or card advantage, cheaper dragons. They're pretty important. Just think about like with the Heartless Summoning, paying 2 mana to get a 3/2 or a 3/3. That's just a dragon. Now, the a little bit of the problem is doesn't super help Neriv. Like the servant, Dragonlord servant is gonna almost be better in that regard. It's like 2 into 3. Um, I think they're both good. Sneak attack is potentially really, really good, especially if you have some of those token creators when they come into play. So like Molten Echoes or Flame Shadow Conjuring, if you have that with a sneak attack, that sneak attack I think works with a lot of cards in here. Smothering Tithe is probably always going to be good. Alchemist Talent, Doubling Treasures, and then doing damage. It's going to be able to do some damage equal to that spell's mana value to each opponent. All right. Regent, Whip, Scavenger Regent. I like that. I like the Roaming Throne. Lots of ETB stuff. Um, I like the blank token, kind of like a myriad token. It's kind of like a. So I think that could be considered like myriad. So it's my third myriad thing in here. I'm not doing a good job cutting in here. Let's be honest here. Kind of fail in that regard. Dragon's Horde. I just think it's on par. Fable and Mirror Breaker works. Let's see how many dragons we end up having in the actual deck at this point. Like there should be enough, but the question is Herald's Horn going to hit 50% of the time? No. Is it going to hit 30% of the time? Probably not. Is it going to be good 20% of the time? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. All right, Fable and Mirror Breaker, Sarkhan Fireblood, Swashbuckler Extraordinaire. I like the map. Like Cursed Mirror. Yeah, yep. Okay, how about I'm gonna have to check on these. I think we get rid of this. This is like a second step. I'm not a token deck. I am a deck that can create tokens. Um, and so that might not always be happening, and that could make this just like not a very good card in here. So I think we cut that. And then secondarily, we're going to want to go through and check how many tokens stick around. No, I think this is the same problem as the Storm Chaser. It's not a token deck. And that's why I was cutting Anointed Procession and stuff like that before being on camera. And so I think this is cuttable as well. I think that's going to be a good one to cut. We're just not going to have tokens that are going to in every game. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. There's going to be a lot of that draw. Demand Answers, Thrill of Possibility, Knight's Whisper, Corroding Dragonstorm, Orator, Deadly Dispute, Brew, Ripples of Undeath. I like Sentinel. I like the Signet, Heartless, Familiar, Sarkhan, Bop, Dragon Disciple. Yeah, I like all of these. All of them. Other than maybe Blade of Cells seems really good. In this deck. I think I want to keep it in. There's just a lot of 2 spot. That's fine. That is fine. All right, 1 drops, Faithless Looting, Esper Sentinel, Top, Devotee, Soul Ring, Mox Jasper, Chrome Mox, Fury, Ephemerate, Cloud Shift. We'll keep it. All right. I'm going to break this up into card types and we'll see how many dragons we actually have, huh? Let's see here. Now, if you didn't go dragon central, like there's a lot of cool cards that ETB and deal damage. Um, some of them I've wanted to play a long time and kind of tempted me over. There, Flame Tongue Kavu coming down and dealing 8 damage to something seems hot. That seems real hot. And then you have if you have like a repercussion, which it could be in this deck as well, like whenever a creature takes damage, it deals that much damage to the controller. I mean, that seems pretty sweet when you're just dealing a bunch of damage to creatures and players and stuff like that. But um, you know, try to make it a little bit tougher with all these dragons. Come on. Everything's flying around and feeling cool. So, whoop. Let's see here. Instance. I always put those in artifact anyway. Enchantments. All right. Lots of enchantments. Kind of not a lot of. All right. We're okay with Sarkin being out there still. One. How many dragons do we have? One, two, three, five, six. Um, would not count. 20. So we have 25 in there. Oh, that's pretty questionable. It's not. It's not too far off. I have top. That's the only thing that I can manipulate the top with. Um, 25 is enough. Let's leave Harold's Horn in for now. Sorceries. Oh, let's double check on our sorceries since those instants were in there. Oh, zoop. There we go. All right. Faithless Looting, Ruinous Ultimatum, Kindred Charge, Crux of Fate, Knight's Whisper. Maybe, shit. Like, do I have just enough? Okay. Here's the question. So this card comes down, probably just win the game. You just got rid of all their stuff, anything that's stopping you. Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. Like that's just a huge game. Then you swing in with some dragons. We have enough dragons that deal damage directly. And so how much worry do we have with like a pillow fort effect? We have a little bit, maybe one card that can deal with artifacts and enchantments if we cut this. Um it's one of the dragons that you can kind of blink, but I think that would be against what we got going on. I think we have to keep it just because for lack of options if somebody locks us out, essentially. Faithless Looting is maybe that's something that can be cut. I have a lot of instant speed 2 mana that I'm gonna see just as many cards. We'll cut looting. I'm okay with that. I like the instant speed stuff. Um 3, 4. Not mad at any of that. All right, instant speed, cloud shift, ephemerate, acrobatics, interlude, answers, throw possibilities, brew, and deadly dispute. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. Blink, 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 blink. So just draw and blink at instant speed. This makes a ton of sense. And then how much do I care about this stuff? Maybe deadly dispute just doesn't. I mean, it gets both though. You're drawing cards and creating a treasure. It's a little bit why anointed possession might be nice because you can double up on your treasures and then because you're always making the treasures. That's something I'll have to think about later. I'm not gonna do that here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I dig them. Let's go enchantments, which seems thick. There's a lot of them here. Hmm. I like Nahiri's Resolve in here quite a bit. Could be real aggressive. Has to be non-token though. That's okay. That's okay. Treasures you control, tap for 2 or sack for 2. Create 2 is Alchemist talent just something that again, it's just kind of competing at that spot. I mean, I already have a lot that's competing at that spot, but it's basically a mana doubler if you have a Smothering Tithe in play. It's like gonna do really well. Or Avernus. I like it. Okay. I like obviously that, that. Yep. Okay. So it's just like, what are we hitting with? I like true conviction. It's that life link that's really making me happy. Okay. Multiple tokens, direct damage. It. Um, Flame Shadow Conjuring. I think I'd like that. Oh, it's really tough. Like I'd rather have it be free, like um, with the damage, Mirror March, Warstorm Surge, Molten Echoes, like all that stuff is kind of free. To whereas Flame Shadow Conjuring needs that red. Ooh, I like the mana doubling though, like with Alchemist Talent in this deck. It makes a ton of sense for me. For now, we'll keep it. All right. Artifacts. We kept Herald's Horn with Veribos. Cursed. I'm getting cheaper. Ones and twos. I'd be happy about that. Blade of Selves. We'll have to look at those in the next set. And we like. All right. Yeah, we'll have to look at the token makers essentially and just probably pick a handful from there. But um, at this point, I'm going to cut Herald's Horn. Let's cut it. It's just what it is. And creatures, we have 25. Uh, and we have 35 total. So there's only 10 creatures in here that aren't dragons. That feels pretty sufficient in that regard. Just there's enough dragons in here. All right. That's removal, reanimation. I don't have a lot, but I do have some of that discard stuff. And like, I do think that the graveyard's going to be nice for me if I pull something that's in that regard. Red Dragon's going to do some work. Realm Scorcher, Scourge, Terror, Ganix. I think Glorybringer's still going to be really good. Gold Lust Triad. I like the doubling triggers. That's going to do a lot. I mean, Scavenger Regent. That's removal. That's a little bit of protection. Just a cheap dragon as well. That's going to be all right. I like this better than Herald's Horn, even though there isn't any cost reduction, but it's a dragon. Come on. Decadent Dragon, Swashbuckler, Orator, Land, Treasure, Reducer, Dragon's Disciple, Fury. I guess that's the other question is how many red cards do we actually have? We probably have a lot. Like, yeah, that's a bad question. We're keeping Nightscape Familiar into play. Let's see how many creatures we have that would just die to that Heartless Summoning. 1, 2, 3. It's only going to kill 3 creatures. Man, it's going to be really good in here. And then if you draw it late game, it doesn't really matter. You just discard it to one of those draw cards. All right, let's put them into what they're doing, and we'll probably call it a night after that. We'll count it up, but we're making some good progress here. Removal. Bloop, bloop. And then I can also see what is going on with that ramp package. I think we're just gonna put that in the ramp package, honestly. There's more removal, doubling up. That is a token creator. There, that is card advantage. Removals. Technically protection. Removal. Let's see here. Tokens. Ramp. So I generally put like reanimation in my protection package because it's like kind of like bringing that creature back and like, oh, you wasted your removal on that. Okay, it's not. Nobody's ever said that to me, but it's how I pretended to be. And then also gaining life also is just kind of like recovering. So if I'm trying to shrink what I got going on, that's probably over there. Making tokens. Draw, draw, draw. It's technically both. Blink is protection. Removal, draw, and both. All right. The biggest culprit heading into this is my ramp package. Let's see how many we have here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20. 20 plus these over here. All right. Let's go through everything else pretty quick. Damage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The only one that I would pull from here would be one of the, one of these two. That's a dragon, but that has them dealing the damage. Is more expensive. This is not. Um, but it seems like it's going to do really well. That's dealing the damage. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. All right, we're good with that. I'm good with Nahiri's and Roaming Throne. We want to kind of double check on those tokens as well that are being made. So we'll wait on that. All right, protection 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Kind of starting to, once I start condensing and kind of going, well, it's kind of a lot at this point. I liked, yeah, True Conviction feels like a really nice, like, backup to Neriv and just extension of it. We like the haste that creates. Um, Blade Wing the Risen. I like the damage that can be dealt there with Thunderbreak Regent. The Ward. Those are both good. Target of a spell or ability and opponent controls destroy target non-land permanent. I mean, that could be up in removal, but we have plenty of removal as well. Am I going to cut Scale Lord Reckoner? Is that where I'm at? It doesn't have an ETB. I don't care how many I have of it. I don't want to myriad it. It's not really doing damage. It's 5 mana. I I think maybe just be happy with it because the blink is doing a lot of stuff and maybe don't count it in there as the 12. It's kind of its own thing. Removal 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. Is there 2 I can cut here? Maybe not. It might be really tough because of just wanting to keep as many dragons as possible here. Um, Fury. I think Fury is going to do some really work in the early game if I get a chance at it. because basically cast Neriv, exile a red card, have this come down, and calm everybody's down. That makes the most sense to me. Mm, mm, mm. I already cut that guy. Hmm, hmm. Removal. Glorybringer is maybe the only one that I'd cut, but I like look at that goddamn art. That's sweet as shit. Starting to get to the nitty gritty. It's getting tough. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for the draw. Or I'm not even going to look at that, especially with 24, 56, 17. Most of this Bone Hoarder is really in that, so it's 13. This is much more treasure. This is plenty of copycats like that. This is whatever it needs to be, but mostly it's going to be ramp. I'd say Dragon Horde's likely going to be mostly ramp. And that could be let's consider that a token maker. Just kind of put it in that pile. All right. Let's look at our token makers at this point. We have a Kikijiki, Kindred Charge, which is just all at once. Molten Echoes as an ETB, same thing with Mirror March. This is kind of an all at once, but a little bit more. And then these two are pretty similar. I think I'd rather have Mardu Siegebreaker. There's a potential for nothing, potential for a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 doesn't seem like a lot. And then we have 4 blink cards. Mirror March can go. Just 6 mana. Potentially hits nothing. Flip a coin until you lose a flip for each flip you win. So you have to win. It's high ceiling, very low floor. Yeah, I think that can be a cut at this point. And I think I'm kind of happy with everything else at this point. Yeah. Yep. I'm cool with that. And then let's look at our draw, and then we'll count how much we have in our deck. Or not our draw, our ramp. Random. Let's look for treasures. Let's look for treasures first. Ba, ba. Right. That's where a lot of that's coming from. You have your rocks. Cost reduction. Kind of lands into play. That's a rock. Sneak attack is nice when you just have these fat creatures out. Sarkhan Fireblood. I think this is mostly going to... Those dragons come into play. I don't really care. I don't have much support for tokens at this point. And then discard a card to draw a card. I don't have any advantage in drawing cards at this point. Sarkhan can probably go 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 21. All right. Kind of like these two, just getting some guaranteed lands are cool. I still like the cost reduction of these, probably better than the dragon specific ones. Sneak attack is dope. That's like a huge cost reduction. You know what I mean? All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guaranteed Mox Jasper is not going to do anything for me. Like, it's going to piss me off. That's what it's going to do. Otherwise, I'm kind of happy there. And let's look at these treasures. We'll give it a count. All right. That's just on the ETB. That's on the attack. That's on the damage. Upkeeps. I mean, this is kind of half of a double of the that. I mean, these two are studs. These two are or these three are okay. They'll do pretty good. I like the attack triggers. I like the haste and the haste. I like the myriad. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 21. I'll probably work on just trying to cut one more for my ramp. I mean, we do have a pretty high curve at this point. Try and get it down to 20 at least. Let's see where we're at. 1, 2, 3, 20. 3, 4, 5, 6, 20. 20. 13. So we're at 73. Still got like 10 cuts left to kind of finish up the deck, which isn't a bad deal. Um, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, you all enjoyed watching. Uh, if and when you do, hopefully the Timberwolves have won the basketball game, beat the Warriors. Hopefully, knocked them out. We'll see. Either way, hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Let me know which way you went. All right. Have a good night. Bye.